Hey, good morning, y'all. John with Empire Weather. Hope you guys are doing well and had a great weekend. Happy Monday. Here with the long range agriculture video update for North America, and we are finally getting back into active time of year. I'm really excited for this growing season. Just wanted to send a quick thank you to you guys for working with us and continuing to support our company. We had a great year last year working with all of you guys throughout the industry, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much. And here's to a great year. So let's look at where we are as of March 2nd, obviously the latest drought monitor from last week. And we see our areas of impact have not really changed. It's really the central and southern plains from Nebraska southward into southwestern Kansas, Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle. And that drought continues kind of creeping up into parts of the northern plains and Midwest, but we've seen such a dramatic improvement here in the last couple of days and weeks. Let's look at the last 90 days of precip, right? So this is percentage of normal. I can't get the whole scale on the screen here, but here's what you need to know. This general region here has been hammered over and over with winter weather and precipitation over the last 90 days. So we are at 2 to 250% of normal in this general region. We've also had well above normal precip in the Ohio Valley down to the Mississippi Valley as well. Again, it's really been the southern plains from the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma to southwestern Kansas and eastern New Mexico that have been the losers in this pattern over and over. And some of these areas are running less than 15% of normal precip in the last 90 days. So very, very dry. And this region is going to be a huge focus as we move into the next couple of days and weeks with the pattern that we expect across the country. So the first elephant in the room to tackle is going to be the La Nina. We have seen a continued La Nina for 3 years now, and if we look at where we were the last time we really sat down and had one of these discussions in January, we still had a very impressive La Nina in place across the tropical Pacific. We even had some supportive wind bursts that would keep the La Nina in place. And again, we watched it sort of just continue, and the question started to build, is this going to happen again this spring? Is it going to stick around again and the forecasts for El Nino go wrong again? And the answer to that now is unequivocally no. So what we see in the last couple of weeks is the unwinding of this La Nina and even the emergence of warmer than normal waters across the eastern Pacific. This is the start of the El Nino transition. The La Nina is fading. It is over. It is done at long last. Looking at the simulated 850 millibar zonal wind anomaly, this tells us a lot. And if we back up and look at what was happening here in February, we had some consistent support for La Nina to continue. But look at this major westerly wind burst here being signaled on models. This is going to be the culprit that finally brings us the death blow to La Nina that we need to see here. There is a lot of warm water underneath here that is going to be upwelled from the eastern Pacific into the central equatorial Pacific. And the model guidance is in great agreement now that the La Nina is going to fade. In fact, we could have neutral ENSO conditions declared by the end of this month in March. So, moving forward, what does this mean for the weather pattern in the long term? We took some years that were similar to this year. There's not a whole lot of them, but we took some of them and we rolled them forward into April, and here's our signal. We do have moisture coming out of the four corners into the central U.S., so it's an above normal precip pattern in the northern plains. Some dryness lingers in the southwestern plains, which I know is not great, what you want to see there, but we're optimistic about this region, and I'll tell you why when we get into a little bit more of the composites. But we have a signal for moisture across the greater ag belt as we move into April. So that's obviously a great sign. Let's run through this together, though. Let's back up and let's look at the temperature instead of the precipitation, and I'll show you why we're optimistic in general. Because the models have a general south central and southeast ridge, right? What happens when you have a pattern that looks like this is you get a lot of storms coming out in this general vicinity and a lot of moisture returning this way. So this, to me, says the active pattern should include a large majority of the ag belt as opposed to just the northern ag belt. This is a fairly classic active pattern across the key ag regions as we move into April. And so it's not a surprise if we go and look at the model guidance. I'll flip over to the CFS, the most recent CFS guidance. It's not a surprise when we look at their monthly precipitation forecast for April that it's signaling above normal precip across a large majority of the ag belt. I think the models are really starting to pick up on this transition out of the La Nina. And so our forecast for April is currently wetter than normal across a large majority of the belt and looks like this when it comes to temperatures. A little cooler than normal in the northern third of the U.S., but warming up across the south central plains and southeast, with that southeast ridge anomaly redeveloping and your cold sort of lingering up in this general vicinity. Not a whole lot of operational concerns. I don't think we're looking at any very big late season winter storms or anything like that. I think it's more just a more active pattern generally as we move into April. So let's get into it. Let's look at what the models show in the next couple days. We are going to have some cold to fight initially, and a lot of that has to do with our high latitude blocking, right? So we look at the model forecast here as we move into mid-March, and we see a shot of cold coming down to the central and eastern United States. The southern plains remain warmer initially, but as we move closer to mid-month, that cold gets down everywhere into the central U.S. And the large culprit for that is this block across central Canada, because that slows the pattern down and allows our cold to sort of creep in here into the United States. But eventually what we're going to see as we move into this period is not only a slightly warmer pattern gradually in late March, but some precip chances in the southern plains. If you look at the model forecast 5-day anomaly here, this is valid for March 15th to 20th. We have some risk for precip here in the areas that really, really need it starting to appear, and our drier risks in the northeast, which if you remember our composite anomaly, if we go back and change this to precipitation again and roll our analogs forward, guess what? The northeast looked drier, and we had active conditions in the central U.S. So this is generally what we're seeing. We also have our river of moisture coming in here to California again. I think we're looking at a very active pattern developing in the west coast, and then our precip chances should begin to increase across the plains as we move into late March. Again, we have a very active, colder, sort of chillier pattern lingering into mid-March, but if we back up and look at what's happening across the entire hemisphere, we're starting to see this ridging retrograde back here into this region. And when that happens, that's when our Pacific jet wakes up. And when that occurs, all of that momentum from that jet stream, I'll show you guys what the models show right now, all that momentum from this jet stream eventually is going to extend way out here. And that's going to send a lot of moisture and a lot of warmth into the United States. And that brings us back to that idea that we could see a more active pattern developing here in the central United States as we move into April. Not expecting a ton of negative impacts operationally, but more so an active pattern and a gradually warmer one as well as we move into April. So stay tuned. We'll have a lot more. We can get through this cold and wintry pattern, then we'll look at our early April warm-up and moisture chances. Stay tuned. We'll have a lot more coming your way soon, including our full growing season forecast for April and May. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.